Okay, so apparently you can hear me, so I'm going to start answering these questions. Thank you for your patience. So, superfan Jane Antoinette Croucher asks, if sleep is so important for cognitive ability, why is it so hard to sleep before an exam? Why can't we just make ourselves fall asleep when we need to? I think that's where emotions come in, because unfortunately, um, what we have is the fact that um, we've got our nerves, etc., getting in the way. Now, there'll be some people who don't get nervous, and therefore they're not affected by in that way. So I think there's that paradoxical thing going on that sleep is really important, but if you're nervous, then you can't sleep, which is then going to affect you even more. So it's a bit of a double whammy, I suppose, for people who are nervous. And I'm afraid I don't have a magic pill for that. So I've got another question, at least on Facebook, from Ruhan Amir. Thank you for the talk. Two questions. In the study assessing recall between subjects who slept and who were awake, doesn't the fact that the second group got acquainted with many words while they were awake become a major confounding variable? Yes, I say it is a confounding variable, but I'm sure that they'll have catered for that. I don't know how they catered for that, but as you say, they've heard other things during the day. I think it's to do with the connection between the table and the shawl. That's the issue. That connection seems to have been weakened because of things that happen during the day. But I don't know for certain, because as you say, there are other words that they've heard. But knowing how good these researchers are, I would say that they'd catered for it at some level. And Rohan's second question is, you mentioned the association between dementia and sleep. So is the data available on this only correlational, or it also assesses the impact of sleep deprivation on memory processes? That, I'm afraid, is something that I can't answer because it's not my work. I'm just reporting the correlation that people have found. In terms of how that's happening, in terms of long-term potentiation, etc., because I'm not a neurobiologist, it's not possible for me to comment. From the flavor of your questions, it sounds like you understand some of the intricacies here and the fact that a correlation doesn't prove causation. Therefore, it's difficult to say that we know that poor sleep causes the dementia or the cognitive decline. All we can say is that we can see that they're highly linked, and until we have a causal model, it's difficult to say for certain, but we do know that they're linked quite heavily. Okay, I'm now going to be taking the questions. I'm now switching between back to WhatsApp. So if the team could send me the questions on WhatsApp, that would be useful. So we have Lindsay, I think, asked the first question. So Lindsay asked, where have we gone? Where have we gone, Lindsay? So Lindsay asked, which comes first, the lack of sleep or the psychiatric disorder and substance misuse? And unfortunately, that's a chicken and egg question, just like the one for Ruhan. Um, because the same issue here, that it's a correlation, we don't know whether which comes first, the chicken or the egg. Now, this, for anyone who isn't well versed in statistics, is about the fact that when you do a correlation, you're saying that A is related to B. We don't know which causes what. So an example would be height and weight. Height and weight are highly correlated, but we can't say that bigger height causes more weight or bigger weight causes more height. There's probably a complex thing going on, but it's not that one directly causes the other. And so in these studies, like the Alzheimer's one and the one about substance use, the mental health problems, etc., we don't know what causes what. We know that they go together. Now, it may be that there's something else going on, some sort of genetic predisposition that creates bad sleep and predisposes someone to take substances or to have mental health problems. So we don't know. The model suggests that the sleep is contributing at least, and that's what the Freeman et al. Paper was suggesting, that there's a bidirectional thing going on where the sleep is contributing at least, the poor sleep is contributing at least somewhat to the other conditions, but we don't know that for certain. We just know that it's a bit of a red flag when you've got the poor sleep. I hope that answers your question, Lindsay. Okay, what we got next? We've got just on Lindsay's question. Let's see. Karen Pickering has said, thank you for giving the time to deliver an interesting talk. You're very welcome, Karen. I hope you enjoyed it. So James Cruz has asked an interesting question. He's asked, I wonder if you could explain more about the effects of environmental and body temperature on sleep. That was something that I had thought about talking about, but I just had to be selective in what I included. And there is work that suggests that your body temperature does need to go down lower to help you sleep. Now, I can't remember which way it goes, but if your body temperature is too high, then you can't get into the deeper sleep. And this is why when you go to bed, you do need to turn the heating down. And I remember years ago when I was having poor sleep and I thought that I needed to be really cozy and snug in bed, so I kept the heating on, and someone said, no, you need to have a cooler room to be able to go to sleep. So it is important to reduce your the room temperature, the ambient temperature, to allow you to have better sleep. So that's all I can say, James. I'm afraid that just because of time and the multiple different layers that I was talking at, it wasn't possible to go into that particular issue. But it could be in a follow-up talk, because I'm going to move the whole operation onto YouTube eventually, where I'm not doing live talks, but they'll be on my YouTube channel. So do subscribe to that channel, and maybe there'll be a talk on there about that. So Oromia, who I think is at Brigham Young University, because I recently heard from Oromia from Brigham Young in Utah. So Oromia has asked, do you think primates, other than us, if given the chance for more sleep, would evolve cognitively even more? Yes, basically, I think they would. I think that's what the suggestion is, that slow movement out of the tree canopy resulted in being able to sleep more efficiently, and so eventually it allowed us to start walking just on our two legs. It allowed us to start hunting gathering, which then itself resulted in improvements in our memory, and then eventually we started farming, which then resulted in us staying in one place, which then resulted in society, etc., etc. So it's been quite an important part of our evolution. So Jane Croucher has asked, can you counteract the problems caused by lack of sleep by drinking buckets of coffee? No. Importantly, coffee is not good for your sleep. It really messes up your the sleep cycles, so you should not do that. It's better to try to get back to a decent type of sleep. And another important thing is that many people think that alcohol helps with their sleep. It does not. Alcohol knocks you out so that you fall asleep, but then you have more disrupted sleep and poorer quality sleep. So whilst it's tempting to think that you feel nice and woozy and sleepy after a few glasses of wine or a pint of beer or whatever, that should not be used as a sleep aid. That's not a good idea. Mindfulness meditation, as you know, my answer to virtually everything is mindfulness meditation. Okay, let's see what else we've got. Well, those are the questions that have come in both on Facebook and on Thingamajig on WhatsApp. So I'm going to assume that we're running out of questions, which is fine. Okay, let's see. Oh, so Patsy has asked, if you wake up naturally, no alarm, bladder alarm, extraneous noise, can you infer that you had an effective night's sleep? I think you probably can. I suppose it really depends on how you feel, because hopefully, Patsy, you've had that experience where you've slept more than you usually do, and you wake up feeling quite groggy. Whereas, if you've slept just the right amount, which is 7 and a bit hours or so, you wake up feeling quite refreshed and ready to get going. So I think that it depends on how you feel when you get up, and if you feel rested, then I think that means that you've had a good night's sleep. But I'm not a sleep expert. Sally, skeptic, hello Sally, has asked, what are the implications if you wake up briefly and then drop straight back into sleep? I think, from what I've heard, Sally, I think, do you remember the sleep architecture graph with the things going up and down, back up and down, etc.? I think that if you wake up in the mid, when you've gone through a whole one of those 5 cycles, then it's not that interrupted. It's breaking through a cycle when you should be in deep REM that is problematic. So I think if you can fall back asleep again, that's not bad. So I think that's okay. I'm sounding like a sleep doctor. I really am not. I'm just trying to tell you the useless bits of information I've picked up through life. Okay, I think that we have come to the end of questions, and I'm slowly disappearing into the dark, as you can see. Night is coming. I don't know if I should go to sleep. Let me see. Oh, so Philip Mulligan from Enniskillen has asked, does the old adage 1 hour before 12 is worth 2 hours after? No idea. No idea whatsoever. But I think what Philip is asking is whether going to sleep early rather than waiting till midnight is a good idea. And I think there probably is something there in terms of our sleep cycle is probably related to daylight, etc. So if you stay awake quite late, even if you have your 7 or 8 hours, it will be daylight, and our circadian rhythms, which are basically our inbuilt clocks, are functioning on daylight. So I think that there is probably something there in terms of going to sleep earlier rather than later. And this is one of the problems, because people are naturally either evening people or day people or morning people, and I think it's difficult for those people who are more evening people to function if they're supposed to be going to sleep earlier. So I think that, generally speaking, going to bed about 11 o'clock or so is good. Okay. So I can't see any more questions. The team can't see any more questions. So I think that means we're going to call it a day. So this means that you have one more talk to go, and then that's it. No more live talks, certainly from me. I'm sure you can find some others from other people. So before the darkness gets me, I'm going to bid you adieu and get on with my evening. So good night, people. I hope you enjoyed the talk, and tune in for the neuropsychology of addiction next week. Okay, bye bye.